Hi everyone, I'm Todd Toronto. I'm a small business owner, have been for 25 years. My oldest holding, Cadre, works in the travel, meetings, and events industry. I know it's an incredibly hard time out there for everybody. It's a particularly hard time for small business owners. It's a particularly hard time for small business owners in the travel, meetings, and events industry. You're trying to keep employees employed, dealing with customers, cancellations, banks, cash flow. All your life you've listened to people, read books about management and consultants and bankers tell you how you should do things. And they're all well-intentioned, but I've always found that they operate at the 30,000 foot level. And right now, they're telling you all the things you should do or have told you all the things you should do, but they've never really told you how to do them. And you don't have the luxury of being up here at the 30,000 foot level. You're in a crisis, you're at the base level, you're having to make tactical level decisions about how to keep your company afloat, right? And I've always found finding good practical advice about how to run your company in a crisis, or frankly, when you aren't in one, how to run your company at the base level, strong, building it, making it a better company so that when you're back in a crisis, you can survive, is pretty hard to come by. So I just thought, having lived in travel for 25 years, having gone through business cycles in the past, that maybe I have some insights that might benefit somebody else. None of it's going to be earth-shattering. Some of it you may know, some of it you may have forgotten. Some of it may be counter to all the things that you've read or what the business schools teach. But my thinking is, maybe I could help somebody, right? Build a better business, survive through this crisis, and then build one that's more bulletproof after this crisis. Why should you listen to me? I'm in my fifth crisis. Each time, I've seen revenues go to zero for at least 3 months. First one for me was back in 1996. I was working in corporate travel. And one morning I read in the Wall Street Journal that airlines were cutting commissions to zero. And right there, revenue for the next 3 months to zero for me. In the late 90s, there was the internet boom. And then there was the internet bust, revenues to zero. 9/11, a financial crisis in 2008. Now dealing with COVID-19. Each time, revenues to zero for at least 3 months. And so what did I learn through that? First thing I learned about dealing and living in the travel industry through a crisis is you're going to try to talk yourself out of this. You're going to say this isn't the case. You're going to agree with me, and then you're going to say, nah, that's not always the case. It's been the case with each one of these for me. And that is, in the travel industry, you're going to learn about the crisis the earliest. We're the canary in the coal mine. In the travel industry, in a crisis, you're going to feel it the deepest. And you're not coming out of it first. Your recovery is going to be the latest. Harsh words, I get it. But it takes a certain constitution, a certain amount of grit, a certain amount of stick-to-itiveness, a certain person to be able to run a company consistently for a long time profitably in the travel industry. And the faster, I should say, you get your mind wrapped around this concept that when there's a crisis, I'm going to be dealing with it earlier, deeper, and longer than anybody else. I'm going to take more punches, they're going to be harder punches, and for a longer period of time than anyone else. Then you get your mind in the right wartime mindset. of what you need to do to get through this. And you will get through this if you're strong. And the strong will survive through this. But for me, strong does not mean biggest or private equity backed or the best marketed company. For me, in a crisis, a strong company is a company that has a strong balance sheet. Now, balance sheets are not sexy. No one goes running around saying, look at my balance sheet, right? But they do talk about their revenue, their profits, their gross profits, how many employees they have. That's the sexy stuff. That's what people brag about. But the real power, the real ability to work your way through a crisis is hidden in a strong balance sheet. And how do you get a strong balance sheet? Through consistent profits. And how do you get consistent profits? Through solid business practices. So my thinking is, maybe some of the insights I have will be able to illuminate some good business practices that I use, some rules of thumb, some things I do that drive consistent profits, that build a strong balance sheet, right? So that I can live through and be one of the strongest to live through this mess. Because there will be another mess. We're going to get through this, and there will be another crisis. We just don't know what it is yet. So how do you build a strong balance sheet? A lot of different ways. We'll talk about more and more of it, but I think the lesson that I learned was the number one item, right? This is not rocket science, but the first line item on any balance sheet is cash. You have to build enough cash reserve to outlive the crisis. It's just that simple. Cash gives you flexibility, and flexibility allows you to make better decisions and have more opportunities and take advantage of coming out of the crisis. Right? And I didn't really learn the cash thing until about here after 9/11, because up until 9/11, and I thought I had seen it all after 9/11, but COVID's much worse. I said to myself, I'm building a 3-month cash reserve, right? And for me, what is a cash reserve? I said 3 months of working capital. That's what I need to stay afloat during the next crisis. And for me, my definition of working capital is different than what you'll read in accounting book or you'll learn in business school. To me, working capital is assume the world stops, your revenue goes to zero, you have to pay all of your current accounts payable, everything you owe, and you're not bringing in any AR. So it's a much more strict definition of working capital, right? And I need to put 3 months away of that because that's going to get me through a crisis. What I learned from this crisis that I'm layering on to my past crisis learnings is I need this 3 months to go to 6 months. That's what I need in my business. I don't know what level of working capital you think you need, but at a minimum, I'd suggest 3 months. And for those in travel, 6 months. Because this crisis here, we're not going to be able to flip a switch and say, let's start the engines again. Some businesses will, but travel won't. Meetings won't. There's going to be a slow engagement period where people are going to have to feel comfortable again to meet and go on planes and do things. And that's a higher threshold than people going to restaurants again or people go and play golf again, right? So I'm going to do everything I can as we come through this, after we go through this, to drive my working capital, my cash balance to 6 months so that I can have the balance sheet I need to survive the next crisis. Learn this now in the middle of the crisis, because this is where learning takes place. If you don't commit to building a cash reserve now, things will get better. You'll forget how much of this hurts right now, right? And you'll say, I don't need it as much, or maybe 1 month will do. Yeah, I'll take the dividend. I want to buy a new car. I want to refinish the basement, right? Remember this and do the learning now while you're in it. Figure out your cash need for 3 months of operating with no revenues, no collections of AR, and you have to pay all your AP. Put it in the bank, and don't let anyone talk you out of it. Don't let them say that's stupid. You deserve certain things. You've worked hard for it. You've done all that. I agree with you. But if you want to survive this next one, figure out your working capital needs, commit to it, and make your business a little bit more bulletproof. Thanks. I hope I helped.